essentially everything that you would want to know has been covered up. From the electrogenetic magnificence of your DNA being a spiritual antenna to the Creator, to the most amazing mathematics and the Pythagorean mystery school mathematics that is essentially freeing to humanity, in essence also very, very clear that everything in our world is a divine creation, and there's the math is the expressive tool of the Creator for creationism. And so there's a whole assortment of everything has been covered up.
Has there ever been a historic figure or culture that has had extraterrestrial contact or origin, from your knowledge, from your vast years of study? Is there one figure who stands out above them all?
All these volumes along here are classical Greek studies, and this shelf here is on Pythagoras. And there's about 50, 60 volumes on Pythagoras here. This is a biography of Pythagoras by Peter Gorman, published in England in 1979. And he records in here that the Pythagoreans in general believed that all the planets in the solar system were inhabited, the dwellers on the earth being the most backward and pernicious of the lot. The farther one went from the earth, the more perfect the beings of the other planets and stars became. And Pythagoras and Plotinus went so far as to say that the beings who dwell in the distant Milky Way are almost disembodied intelligences and possess a very tenuous physical body. And that, as we have seen in the biography, the classic biography by a disciple of Plotinus, Jamblichus, was that Pythagoras might have been one of the superior beings who inhabited the moon or beyond. And the more intelligent beings inhabit the regions beyond the earth, and if someone can purify his psychic vehicle, consisting of an intelligible substance akin to light, but on earth is commingled with other elements, if he can purify that back into a superlight, he can journey to the stars and beyond to join these intelligences. This is the fundamental reason for all the purifications of the Pythagorean way of life and philosophy, to return to the ether where one can attain a cosmic divinity. Thus, the whole universe for Pythagoras was inhabited by beings, some more or less material with bodies of fire or air, some immaterial who were superior to men and who sometimes guided them. Astraeus was one of these beings. Evidently, Astraeus was, as close as we can discern, a child from another species from elsewhere.
And what did he teach Pythagoras about how they travel from?
They were able, I think, in growing up, just to convey to Pythagoras that there were cosmic dimensions to being, and not just social, and not just geographically limited. And this made Pythagoras the wisest man of his time in the Mediterranean region. He was a contemporary of the Buddha in India and of Lao Tzu in China.
And Roger noticed that in the Phoenix Lights case, that these giant triangular, the key operating word here meaning triangular UFO, it stops right in front of the Estrella mountain range. And Estrella in Spanish and Latin means star. So Star Mountain was the name that the ancient, early American Spanish settlers gave to the mountain in Phoenix, the Star Mountain. So why does the triangular UFO stop there when, there's a connection to the heavens or the stars with this mountain? Were they symbolically trying to say something? And even further, Roger Weir notices that Astraeos in Greek is actually the star child, the stepbrother of Pythagoras, and he tells us the story. So is there a connection to Pythagoras with these giant triangular UFOs? Well, once again, we think of these are a 5,000-foot wide triangular UFO. It's not a formation. We know from the eyewitnesses that said that the whole triangle blacked out the stars, so it's not a formation. The question is, are these extraterrestrials trying to tell us something? Is there a connection? Because what is Pythagoras famous for more than anything else?
And here's the famous Pythagorean triangle, where the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the square of the two sides. One of the great discoveries of mathematical proportions. And up above here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's the tetrachus, the triangle, the pyramid of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and their ratios, which give us an index and a key beginning for all of the proportions that characterize the existential world. And here, of course, is the key transposed to music, and it's the harmonics of Pythagoras that are the basis of Western music.
Between the 6th and 5th century BC, Greek mathematician Pythagoras began speaking of his musica mundana, that is to say, the music of the universe. It was a concept that later became known as music of the spheres. In this concept, he speculated that the 6 known planets produced a kind of music, a heavenly music, as they went through their orbits, and that this heavenly music was in direct relation to the intervallic relations in music. Pythagoras is also well known for having established the ratios which make up our intervallic system of music. That is to say, a 2-to-1 ratio is what we call an octave. A 3-to-2 relation is what we call a perfect fifth. A 4-to-3 relationship is a perfect fourth. A 5-to-4 relationship is a major third, and so on. These relationships, Pythagoras theorized, were in direct relation to the planets which we knew of at the time.
Astraeus, his adopted brother, was not the only being from another world whom Pythagoras encountered.
Are the ancient architects, have they returned? Are they trying to tell us something here? Is it so subtle that this went over everybody's heads? Nobody knew about it until now? I think the connection is amazing. I don't think we're pulling too far here to go this far to say that, because if you really think about it, where did Pythagoras learn the triangular theorem? Who were his teachers? He studied in ancient Egypt and Alexandria, and also in Babylon. So when you think of the ancient architects of Egypt, what did they build? They built pyramids. They built all the great pyramids. So have the great stone masters return.
Let's go to ancient Greece, to the time of Pythagoras, the master egghead of them all.
Pythagoras?
The father of mathematics and music.
Mathematics and music?
Ah, you'll find mathematics in the darndest places. Watch. First, we'll need a string. Stretch it good and tight, plunk it. Now divide in half. Plunk again. You see? It's the same tone, 1 octave higher. Now divide the next section. And the next. Pythagoras discovered the octave had a ratio of 2-to-1. With simple fractions, he got this. And from this harmony in numbers developed the musical scale of today.
By golly, you do find mathematics in the darndest places.
You can imagine how excited Pythagoras was when he shared his findings with his pals, a fraternity of eggheads, known as the Pythagoreans. They used to meet in secret to discuss their mathematical discoveries. Only members were allowed to attend. They had a secret emblem, the pentagram. Let's see what the topic is for today.
Well, I'll be a persuaded fan.
It was our old friend Pythagoras who discovered that the pentagram was full of mathemagic. The two shorter lines combined exactly equal the third. And this line shows the magic proportions of the famous golden section. The second and third lines exactly equal the fourth. Once again, we have the golden section. But this is only the beginning. Hidden within the pentagram is a secret for creating a golden rectangle, which the Greeks admired for its beautiful proportions and magic qualities. The star contains the golden rectangle many times over. It's a most remarkable shape. It can mathematically reproduce itself indefinitely. All these rectangles have exactly the same proportions. This figure also contains a magic spiral that repeats the proportions of the golden section into infinity. To the Greeks, the golden rectangle represented a mathematical law of beauty. We find it in their classical architecture. The Parthenon, perhaps one of the most famous of early Greek buildings, contains many golden rectangles. Same golden proportions are also found in their sculpture. In the centuries that followed, the golden rectangle dominated the idea of beauty in architecture throughout the Western world. The Cathedral of Notre Dame is an outstanding example. The Renaissance painters knew this secret well. Today, the golden rectangle is very much a part of our modern world. Modern painters have rediscovered the magic of these proportions. Indeed, this ideal proportion is to be found in life itself.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is mathematics. I got mathematical figures like that.
Donald.
Get me to it.
No.
Ideal proportion.
Not quite. No, I'm afraid not. Well, we can't all be mathematically perfect.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I knew I could do it.
Now that you're all pent up in a pentagon, let's see how nature uses this same mathematical form. The petunia. The star jasmine. The starfish. The wax flower. There are literally thousands of members in good standing in nature's Pythagorean Society of the Star. All nature's works have a mathematical logic, and her patterns are limitless. The magic proportions of the golden section are often found in the spirals of nature's designs. The profusion of mathematical forms brings to mind the words of Pythagoras. Everything is arranged according to number and mathematical shape. Yes, there is mathematics in music, in art, in just about everything. And as the Greeks had guessed, the rules are always the same.
Essentially everything that you would want to know has been covered up. From the electrogenetic magnificence of your DNA being a spiritual antenna to the Creator, to the most amazing mathematics and the Pythagorean mystery school mathematics that is essentially freeing to humanity, in essence also very, very clear that everything in our world is a divine creation, and there's the math is the expressive tool of the Creator for creationism. And so there's a whole assortment of everything has been covered up. The toxicities of the pharmaceuticals. You're not learning the truth about vaccinations. You're not learning the truth about various medications. The pharmaceutical industrialists, which I prefer to call the military, medical, petrochemical pharmaceutical cartel, essentially has control of the media, the mainstream media, and so it has control over the mass mind.
Words you were never meant to hear.
It's clear we're dealing with a cosmic Watergate.
This is the biggest secret in the history of human rights, the known modern history of government.
Photos you were never meant to see. Video you never knew existed. People you were never meant to meet.
As Jack Nicholson would say, you can't handle the truth.
Essentially everything that you would want to know has been covered up.
Things you were never meant to know about.
Out in the universe, they were horrified. They said, oh my God, the kids have found the matches.
We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other beings.
The biggest secret in the history of our world is about to be revealed.
We're dealing with a big, big story. It's not just them. As I said, if it was that simple, it would probably been out some time back. It's really about us.